you. Good evening and welcome to the August 9th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. Thank you to the staff for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. We're missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. I remind you guys, after commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we don't trip over each other, and the votes have to be done by roll call. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you'll be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, your project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative. And lastly, for this part, for the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued: 459 Central Ave and 23 Spencer Baird. First up, vote minutes, July 3rd, 2023.
I'd move approval of the minutes.
If I may, I don't believe we met on July 3rd. Is that a July 30th minutes?
That was the special meeting, and we've been waiting
Oh, that's
like
one.
6 weeks for
Okay,
you to
that's
vote
right.
on it. So
I'm sorry. That's
just
that
say
one.
yes.
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you.
I can't make the motion. I didn't attend the meeting. I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, that's right.
I'll
Okay,
make
so
the
I
motion.
didn't, and I'll second
Wait a
it.
minute.
Freitag.
Gladfelter.
Freitag, second.
All right, who was there's one other person that's not on the quorum.
I'm not there. I wasn't there.
Thank you. All right, now we'll get that squared away. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of July 3rd. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Melissa?
Freitag, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of July 3rd. Thank you, Kristen. Next up, Chairman's rant. All right, so I have a couple of things I want to point out that are good. It's all good. But I just want to start with the fact that these comments are directed to everyone who participates in our meetings: applicants, engineers, commissioners, staff, everybody, good or bad. So good luck. So first of all, you guys probably heard Hill versus Conservation Commission. As you've heard, the court recently affirmed our decision against a dock extension in West Falmouth. With the staff's guidance and our own due diligence, we applied the regulations as intended. Thank you to the staff for keeping us honest, and to you, my colleagues, for your perseverance. Next comment, if you will, is open meeting. So recently the court found that we as a commission did not violate the open meeting law, specifically in regards to 9 Sycamore Street. Jen, are you contemplating, or you're telling me to stop talking?
No, it's the AG's office, the Attorney General's office. So I just wanted to.
What did I say? The court. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sue me. All right. Somebody said we didn't violate the open meeting law. How about that? So some written correspondence was submitted to the office prior to the meeting, which was added to the file, thus becoming part of the record. At the hearing, the public was allowed to submit comments via the chat function and/or actively participate if so inclined. And the record shows that there was in fact public participation. Ironically, the AG's office commented that under state law, we're not actually required to seek public comment. Though there is a gray area, in my opinion, between public meeting and a public hearing. That said, this commission historically not only allows public comment, but encourages it. The only requirement we have is that the commenting be directly related to the application in front of us and that the comments are within our purview, which are the rules and regulations of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Some reminders and clarification on meeting protocol, if you will. For public commenting, there are numerous ways to comment on a project, whether for or against. Written submissions can be made via U.S. Postal Service, email, and in person. Said correspondence is then added to the file and becomes part of the record. That's an important note, becomes part of the record. The correspondence is also forwarded to the commissioners for their review. While submitted correspondence isn't necessarily read at the hearing, it has, as previously stated, become part of the record. So anything anybody submits becomes part of the record. We encourage public participation and can appreciate the impact of a project on its neighbors. However, you as a neighbor may have concerns that are simply out of our purview, zoning, building, health, for example. And remember, depending on the application, even if they receive a favorable response from us, they may still need to satisfy other boards and/or departments. Applicants and presenters, kudos to short and sweet. So please be concise in your presentation. Short and sweet wins the race. Most of you are really good at this, and we appreciate it. But also please refrain from making derogatory statements of subs, vendors, homeowners, and of course, this commission. Applicants, representatives, and the public should always assume that the members of the commission have in fact reviewed the application, related plans, staff reports, public correspondence, and where appropriate, have conducted site visits to acclimate themselves with the proposal under review. Please keep that in mind. We put a lot of time in to make sure we're up to speed on these applications. Each site is unique and the rules and regulations need to be applied in direct correlation to that application and location. While commissioners typically do not conduct site visits related to an RDA, we receive all pertinent information from the staff. RDA applications have been reviewed and vetted as an appropriate avenue by the staff, and their recommendation for acceptance or not is made. In the case of a staff recommendation for a positive finding, they will typically recommend a continuance to allow the commissioners to review the site for themselves so that we can make an informed decision of our own. So oftentimes an applicant will have, if you will, a second means of seeking approval under an RDA. And while we all want to save the earth one tree at a time, we are tasked with applying the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Bylaw that are in place at the present time. We need to stay focused on what is within our purview. You should always assume the engineers and applicants have done their due diligence. We're all human and we're all prone to making mistakes, but it should be assumed that the engineers and applicants are accurate and truthful in their testimony. Again, we don't want to be disparaging to homeowners. Particularly, we have no idea what a person is going through in their lives. And for the most part, people are here to improve their property and are seeking our guidance to that end. Having said that, we are not here to design someone's project. While I believe our input is always welcome, sure, We need to assess the plans as submitted and not expect staff to redesign them. As chair, I appreciate the diligence of all involved. Our meetings have become quite efficient. That's a true testament to the applicants providing accurate information right up front and addressing staff's concerns. The staff for their efforts to vet out any issues or seek clarification before we even get it. To the applicants' representatives who present the project for their concise delivery, and to the commission members for their efforts preparing for the hearings, providing intelligent input, and rendering a decision that best applies the rules and regulations to a specific property. Lastly, I apologize for the overuse and possible abuse of the term purview. I'm done. Next up, request for determination of applicability. Joan and Lawrence Siff, 49 Captain Davis Lane, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a fence, replace a set of stairs, remove trees, install crushed stone, and vista prune according to FWR 10.18 10B. Melissa.
Staff
Ms.
recommends a
Bergeron,
-3
sorry.
under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So move Carlo Hawks.
Second O'Brien.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa?
Frantag, aye.
Steve?
At night.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, our requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Elizabeth Barry, trustee, Elizabeth Barry Family Trust, 111 Lucerne Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconfigure an unpermitted patio and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Raul Lazardi from Cape and Islands Engineering is here to present his project. Hello,
Mr.
Raul.
Lizardi, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant and homeowners, Elizabeth Barry. Little brief history on this project before I start sharing screen. In 2019, the applicant filed a request for determination of applicability for some additions. The addition was supposed to be a deck on the back of the house and a front porch. That project required approximately some 90 square feet of mitigation planting. Subsequently, we were engaged again to locate the improvements that were done to the property, and we found that there were more improvements than what was approved under the determination that was granted by this board. So this is an after the fact notice of intent filing to address the extent of the project. And with that, I would like to start sharing my screen.
Yes, sir.
So the project is in East Falmouth, kind of close downtown Falmouth. It's off of Little Pond, along the western shores of Little Pond. So the wetland resources are Little Pond, land of the body of water. There is a BVW all along the western property side, and the entire property is land subject to coastal storm flowage. In specific to what was done on this property, the project was approved for this deck addition and this proposed front porch. the deck was constructed, the front porch was not. However, when we visited the site to locate what was improved, this patio showed up, this patio showed up, and this patio showed up. So we advised the homeowner that those additional improvements to the site needed to be rectified with this board. Something else that showed up is this stone landscape. It is a feature that was done to kind of disguise the E1 pump for connecting to town sewer. So that is housing the town, well, the connection to the town sewer. But nevertheless, the area of it is calculated as part of additional improvements in terms of hard surfaces that needed to be rectified with this board. In all, the additions of structures in the A zone and the B zone require additional mitigation plantings at the 2-to-1 and 3-to-1 ratios. There were some portions that were extending further closer, but we advised the homeowner to cut those back because no accessory use could be moved closer to the resources, and they did so. This patio used to do something like that. But that was removed because nothing could move closer than the primary structure. All in all, the requirement of mitigation now jumps to almost 830 square feet of mitigation planting, which we are proposing it all along the western side of the property, which is the shoreline on Little Pond. There is an area at this location that is a beach, sandy beach area. The homeowner wants to keep it as access to the water. So that is essentially, oh, and the front porch never got constructed. So that's essentially what we are presenting, is just for this board to approve this project after the fact, to share some images of the site. This is what the site looked like. That's the patio that was extended. The patio underneath the deck is not counted for mitigation because the main deck was existing. And that's what we have. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, Raul. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things, Raul. In the future, when you're providing a plan, please provide us with an existing conditions plan. It was kind of confusing when the staff went out there. Your plan shows what you're proposing, but it doesn't reflect the accurate conditions on the site when the staff went out there. The patio, we could clearly see in your pictures, is still there. And according to the staff, you said the patio has already been removed?
No, I'm sorry. I may not have been clear on that. So what we're proposing is to permit the patio, a portion of the patio that exceeded closer to the wetland was removed, a portion. But
Yeah,
what we're
portion.
proposing is to keep the rest of the
Okay.
patio as it exists today.
So your plan that you submitted reflects the actual current site conditions, the
Yes.
removed patio and everything else?
Yes.
Okay. And what about the front deck, that little front area that wasn't constructed? It looks like you're trying to take a negative 15 square feet credit for that. If it was never constructed, how are we taking credit for that?
So not taking credit, what we're comparing it is to the table that was presented in the RDA. So in the table that was presented for the RDA, that was proposed improvements that were calculated in that table. And we're just comparing what was shown then to what is shown today.
So your outer buffer bones, okay, so you're not taking credit for that?
No.
Okay. Some a little confusing things on your plan recently, Raul. So if you aren't taking credit for it, how is it a negative? So 30. So in your outer buffer zone B, your 2019 RDA, Your 2019, where is this 34 feet from your 2019 RDA?
So, the negative,
Yeah, what's the negative 14? If it wasn't constructed, Raoul, please don't put it on one of our new plans, one of an existing conditions plan, because it's clearly not a plan. It's clearly not there. It clearly wasn't constructed, and it's very confusing in your table. Because it appears in your table that you are claiming some sort of credit for it.
right? I see the confusion, but it is
Mhm.
not a credit that we're really taking.
Then what is it?
It is a reduction from what was shown on the 2019, but it is still an increase in buffer zone B, even by discounting it. It's not that there is a credit in the B zone.
Well, that's not what your calculations show, because you clearly are adding this 20 over here.
Right, and the 20 is used in the calculation as a 2-to-1 requirement for the structures.
Take it off the plan, Raoul. It's confusing.
Okay,
Right off the plan. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about its existence. All this statement needs to say is it was approved, it wasn't constructed. Leave it off your plan. If it was never constructed, leave it off your plan and out of the calculations. Because it's very confusing. How about the coastal bank on the property to the north? So we have a plan from BSS Design that shows a coastal bank directly north to the property north of you. Have you looked into whether or not there's a coastal bank or an extension of that coastal bank buffer onto your site?
I do not have survey on that property for a coastal bank determination.
So that's gonna have to be looked at because there is a coastal bank on that property. So we're gonna have to take a look at that. And then just a few note checks. Land under water body should be land under salt ponds. And I think that's all. Are you going to be removing the dog fence or rearranging it?
No proposed change to the dog fence, no.
Then how are you putting the mitigation into the dog fence? I don't even see the dog fence on here. Oh, I see it. No. Well, when they were out in the field, the agents determined that the dog fence might need to be modified or realigned or reconfigured to allow for the mitigation. The mitigation cannot go into the dog fence.
So,
can
right,
you-
yeah, the dog fence could be repositioned to
Yeah, can you bring
outside
up
the
that
mitigation.
picture you had? Does it show the dog fence?
The picture I had was towards the house.
Okay. That's fine. Just, I think, you're gonna have to go back and look at that coastal bank issue anyway, so you may want to check with, check that dog fence and where the mitigation is to see. And once again, remove the front porch and out of the calculations. I don't want to see it. It just creates confusion. And then we had a little beach area that was discovered on the northern end, the northern part of that, that area. And we have old photos that doesn't really show it kind of a beach area. It shows, we have old photos showing it kind of like a little access to the water, but definitely I don't think a beach area. So we may have to reduce the size of that access where you have 7 feet down to 4 feet. And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Just to continue on the staff report, Raoul, down by that beachy area, there's one of those decorative, short wire fences probably put up for geese or something. Since it is inhibiting the movement of wildlife, that would need to be removed. I know you're proposing a tree kind of on the south side of the house, and where it's proposed is very close to the house and the neighboring shrub, and it just doesn't look like it can do well there. So that should be relocated somewhere on the seaward half of the property. Let's see. Yeah, the calculations were very confusing. I like the traditional way, if I had to give my 2 cents. And then this project started as the staff got a complaint as the driveway was being laid with pavers. So just seeking after the fact approval for the driveway as well, as part of this application. I don't think it was enlarged. If anything, you know, it was right where that little catch basin is, but that seems necessary. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Betsy,
No questions or comments, thanks.
all right. Roll, I understand how you came up with that negative 15 feet, but we won't go there. Sorry.
I don't.
For moral support, buddy. All right. Kevin,
No questions at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
all right. Maury,
The only question I had is if staff was okay with just 2 different species of plants being planted in the mitigation. Other than that, I have no questions.
Melissa,
Thank you. Just looking forward to seeing the revised plan and chatting about this then.
Steve,
No additional questions. I think Jen's comments were covered everything.
thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
No, the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Raul, I think the biggest thing is I'd want you to check that coastal bank delineation to the north.
All right.
And the dog fence may have to be realigned. How long do you need, Raul?
How's the next meeting looking? Actually, no. 2
Oh,
weeks.
God,
No,
no.
no.
I'm in September, Raul.
All right. The first one in September you have.
I'm in September. September 13th is the first one I can get you on, Raul. You were here in the meeting early. I was getting yelled at by the chairman because I buried everybody for the next couple of weeks. So
And
I'm
she's leaving.
afraid to give you the 30th.
I request to continue. I ask to continue for the 13th of September.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this hearing to the 13th of September. Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we
Thank you,
have
John.
a motion and a second to continue until September 13th. If there's nothing further, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's aye.
Melissa,
Hartog, aye.
Steve.
And I,
It is unanimous. We have continued this till September 13th. Thank you all. All right, next up, Kevin and Kathleen Hanwell, 15 Grove Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove the existing deck, landing, shed, and stone parking, construct a garage, porch, and addition, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Raul, you staying for this one? I don't see anybody else from your team.
Yes, it's me.
It's you? Okay.
You're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant and property owners. If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
So as stated, the project is at 15 Grove Street. in West Falmouth. The applicant is proposing to do an addition to the house, in specific, an addition in a garage and connection to the existing house, all to the west rear side of the property. So that's the addition that they're proposing. The wetlands at this property, there is a BVW at this section. There is a coastal bank on the neighbor across the street, just by definition of the slope of the property. So we have a buffer zone A and a buffer zone B. The proposed garage addition and structures additions are in the B, except for the strip of the driveways to access the 2-bay garage. Portion of that is in the A zone. Couple of pictures of the site. This is a picture looking at where the addition is going to go. This deck is going to be partially removed because this is where the addition is proposed to take place. A little aerial GIS image. This is that BVW, and it's quite a massive system. And this is our property. So this is the BVW that was delineated last month or a couple of months ago, that this project is mostly close to and is producing the buffer zone A to this project. So what we're proposing to do is remove the deck. In its place, there's going to be an addition, and then there's going to be the main addition to the project. The existing parking in the front is going to be removed. The 2 axes on the side of the house are being removed. To take a closer look at what that parking area looks like, that's the gravel parking right off the side of the road. And this paver right here is the access to the side entrance to the house, which is going to be eliminated. So this proposed project will eliminate all of this development in the A zone. What we're proposing to do is replicate or mitigate the required mitigation calculations in this location. There is, however, a section of approximately 510 square feet of landscape plantings here and 1 dead tree. What we are proposing to do is the landscape area to be relocated to this location. And because this location is within 10 feet of the existing structure, it wouldn't count for the required mitigation, but then this area is more than 10 feet from the proposed garage, so it counts for mitigation calculation areas. A closer look of what that area looks like. So this is the ornamental planting. This is the 1 dead pine tree. I believe by now this pine tree has been removed. What we're proposing in addition to the mitigation, we have 1 voluntary or required mitigation in terms of a tree. We have a 2nd tree proposed. This 2nd tree is to replace this removal of this tree for the access to the garage. So 1 tree is for the removal of 1 tree. The other tree is part of the mitigation. The property is serviced by town sewer, so there is no septic system to be done. The other improvement we are proposing is currently there is no dry wells or interception of roof runoff. So what we're proposing for the areas to the front and the low side to the back is a shallow trench, 1 at this location and another 1 at this location. We're choosing the trenches because of groundwater. And on the high side, we're proposing a dry well to collect the high side roof downspouts. The area in the front is roughly at elevation 5s. So anything that we dig into the ground will be too close to groundwater to put anything in terms of trenches or dry wells. We know that this excavation will likely hit groundwater. So we do have a dewatering basin at this location shown on the lawn behind the existing planting beds for any dewatering that may be necessary for this project. So that's basically the project. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, Raul. Jen?
Raul, did you address the enlargement of the parking areas and whether or not that's being credited or whatever in your project?
So the existing parking, the existing gravel parking that's being removed is taken into account for credit, yes.
Even though it enlarged between 2020 and 2021 without a permit?
I did not know that.
It's in the staff report. Yeah.
I
know.
apologize. I did not receive the staff report. I don't know if it was sent to someone else in the office, but I have not seen it. Sorry.
Who did we send it to? Alyssa? She's checking.
I'm checking.
So, Raul, can you go through how you figured out the mitigation? Because it appears that your company is all of a sudden switching how you calculate mitigation. And the way we've typically seen the mitigation calculations done, and we'll be addressing this tomorrow. We're gonna be looking at this is, you have X amount in A, X amount in B, you minus that, and whatever your increase is in B, you multiply that by 2. It appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you took your square footage in A, multiplied it by 3, took your square footage in B, multiplied it by 2, and then subtracted. And I'm pretty sure years ago when that method of calculating mitigation was proposed, the board said, no, we want to see the mitigation calculations done this way. Can you explain why all of a sudden you're changing the way you're calculating mitigation?
So I'm going to
And
share.
we apologize that you didn't receive this. We didn't realize you didn't receive it, Raul. We send it out all the time.
So the calculation that we did was the A, using the A by itself, and then the B by itself, and adding the combination of the two. So in the A, we have complete reduction, and then on the B, we have an increase.
So you didn't multiply it by 3 and multiply it by 2.
We did. So the calculation at the bottom is by 3 and by 2.
Why aren't we just calculating it the way we did 2 months ago? Why are we calculating everything differently now? That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Raul, I just checked my email. I had sent them both to Matt. I meant to also send them to Jeff, but I put Jen's name twice, but somehow you got Lucerne. I don't know why 15 Grove didn't go your way. But I can send that to you tomorrow, just for your records. Make a note about that. That dead tree was there 2 days ago, so it hasn't come down yet. Just an FYI. Yeah, in terms of the mitigation calculation, if you're up 1,000 square feet and down 400, that would have been a difference of 600. At a 2-factor would have been 1,200 square feet of mitigation. This way it comes out to 800 square feet of mitigation. So we've seen this once before fairly recently. It's just, I think if that was the way it was to be calculated, it would have done that a long time ago.
We've been seeing that calculated that way for the last 15 years and we haven't.
So if you can take a look at that, that would be great. If you can put up your plan for a quick second, I just have a question on one of the proposed areas. I will say, Raul, the Cape and Islands presentation here with the PowerPoint and all the photos, I think it's really helpful for you guys' presentation. So I like that new thing. It's been working out well. The area south of the proposed porch, that rectangle that's also in orange, is that supposed to be like a overhang? Because
Yes.
it appears, okay. All right. I couldn't tell what I was looking at. So it's roof. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Another thing that I mentioned in the staff report, Raul, was there was a 2014 administrative review for 2 trees to come down on the eastern side of the property. They were supposed to be replaced. I didn't see them on site, so I'll need 2 trees to go back in somewhere over there. And the other comments, Jen quickly touched upon it. The stone driveway increased a smidge. So that will need to be not included in the impervious surface calculation. And then it looks like, in addition, when the deck was put on, I found that permit in a building permit, so they're good on that one, but that patio and rent station came in later without permits. So that square footage would need to be accounted for as well.
Raul, following up Lisa's question on the overhang, is the overhang being counted?
Yes,
It is. That bird's eye view kind of coverage, and we're not
yes.
subtracting that out. Okay, thank you.
And just a request, if you ever don't get a staff report from me, please call. I'll send it right over. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comment. Yeah, I covered Jen and Alyssa. Commissioner comments. Maury, we'll start with you.
I think they covered everything. They're gonna remove the shed.
Yes,
I just don't want to see it left there and not be calculated for because it wasn't there.
right. The shed, the main reason for removal is for zoning. It doesn't play part on the Falmouth buffer zone A or B calculations.
All right, thank you.
All right, Melissa.
Thank you. The staff did quite a good job of covering it. I was wondering too, the parking area looks awfully new, and I was wondering about the permitting status of that and the patios. But that dead tree that's there is still very much there. I was concerned about that quote 8-inch oak on the A line. It looks a hell of a lot bigger than 8 inches to me. It looks more like 10 to 12. And I'm hoping that maybe if you don't remove it, if you could, because it's bigger than the pines that are listed as 10-inch out there. Hoping that maybe you can add an extra tree for that, because that's actually a really nice tree. And you're removing that 10-inch pine too further back in the B, or in the B area. Hoping that maybe you can find an extra tree, but hearing that there's some unpermitted stuff and that there's some mitigation that was supposed to happen, looking forward to seeing how many more trees are being added in addition.
Yeah,
That's-
I'm gonna have to get some more information from staff on those outstanding items from prior permits, and I'll revisit with the applicant about the ability for additional trees.
Great, thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Steve.
Thank you, sir. Raul, in between the strip driveways, is it grass or and the other area towards the house besides the driveway?
Yeah, that's all gonna remain as lawn.
The only remaining entrance, at least from this side, is through the proposed porch.
Proposed porch and the rear patio. So the patio is gonna have an access into the addition, and that's gonna be the second access into the house.
Okay. Certainly not part of our purview, but I do like these driveway strips, I have to say. And following up on Liz's comments that the grease pen or whatever it's called, I really appreciate you using that in your presentations. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Betsy.
Raul, did you do these mitigation calculations? This was the most creative manipulation of our regulations that I've seen. How many do we have, Jamie? 120 of these a year? And this is the first time I've seen someone try this way to reduce the amount of mitigation. It's really simple, Raoul. If it's minus in the A, you just take that off the plus in the B and then double what's left. It's not rocket science. I know your engineering prowess is capable of dealing with this, and I don't think that you probably did this.
No, I did do it. I did do the calculations.
Oh,
So
you did?
I apologize. I'll have to revisit my calculation. It's an automatic spreadsheet that populates itself once you start entering numbers.
Ah, stop that.
Calculations, the computer just does the calculation.
Oh, well,
Somebody had to program the computer, Raoul.
that's why you have to ground truth these things, Raoul.
Don't say no to AI.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I had fun calculating them on my own. Like Maury has to add up all the number of caliper inches of trees. I'll do the mitigation calculations.
Sorry, Raoul, it appears to be pick on Raoul night. Kevin, say
I
something nice
couldn't
about
think of
Raoul.
anything to follow up on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Say something nice.
I love to see Raoul. I'm not picking on him. I'm just getting him to be his best self.
Oh, boy. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not in regards to this project, Mr. Chairman.
All right, what are we looking at?
If I could get the same continuous day as the one prior,
That's
At the-
fine, Raoul.
At the request of the
13th.
applicant. At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this hearing to September 13th.
Fellow Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until September 13th. Any questions or comments? All
Mr.
right.
Chairman,
Yes,
I'm,
sir.
I'm assuming the staff can deal with the mitigation area and the calculations, and they can work that out prior to the next meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Anything else?
Only
All
again I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but to Jamie, to reiterate Alyssa's comment, Raoul, if you don't get a staff report from us, just give us a call.
I apologize. I was in a
No,
Zoom meeting
no, we
for 2
apologize.
hours.
Yeah, no worries. I feel bad that you don't have it, so.
If I can rule, sometimes I don't know who's going to present. There's like 5 of you now. So maybe you can let us know, or if I send it to all 5 of you, I hope that's not too much. I can do that.
That
know.
works.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, 5's not terrible. I mean, somebody that doesn't need it's just gonna ignore it, hopefully. I mean, clearly whoever got it ignored you, Raoul. All right, never mind. Let's move on. Motion and a second is to continue this till 9:13. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Fellow Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 9:13. Thank you, Raoul.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good night,
Raoul.
everyone.
You done for the evening?
Yes.
Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Night, Raoul.
His night just got better. He doesn't have to deal with us anymore.
I think he just had a 2-hour Zoom meeting too. Poor guy.
All right, next up, Richard von Turkovic, 459 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct 2 additions and a covered porch, reconstruct the front entry and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative has requested a continuance until September 27th. There are some The project itself is fine, but the staff went back and looked at the old records, and there have been some changes to the property that the current engineer was unaware of. So that is going to change where his mitigation is going. So we're working with JC Engineering to resolve those issues before the next meeting.
Okay.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this until 9/27. Pat,
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 9:27. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 27th. Next up, VJG and Mary Lou Da Silva, 169 Walker Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a garage addition and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
1 second, Mr. Chairman, I accidentally promoted Mike Vorselli, and it should have been Tom Bunker. Hang on, Mike, I'm gonna put you back into attendees. Sorry about that. All right, Mike is back in attendees, and now Tom's up. Sorry about that, Tom.
I was gonna say, if Mike was willing, he could handle it. After your treatment of Raoul, I don't know if I want to be here.
Oh, me too.
Smart man. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the record. My name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design, representing VJ Da Silva on this property at 169 Walker Street, and Mary Lou Da Silva, I should say, on Walker Street. And I will put my screen up if I may.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. So we've been around here a couple of times on this property. I outlined the history in the narrative. There were an RDA and then a notice of intent down, both had some mitigation planting in there, but I'll go through. This property fronts on Sitter's Pond, as you can see, which is a salt pond, and a BVW along the salt pond, which was flagged, identified by LEC a month or so ago. And there's also a coastal bank. This property rises from water level down here, presumably 0 up to elevation 5 and 6. So there's a coastal bank right along this edge here. It's in the flood zone. AE elevation 13 is basically over the pond. AE elevation 12 is the flood zone that's over this lot, which only gets up to elevation 9 up at Walker Street here. So the whole lot is in the flood zone. Right, the existing house is fairly old. This used to be a garage with a driveway running around back. I was converted into a family room a while back, and the driveway was shortened back to here. And under this proposal now, the rest of this, it's a gravel, actually I think a gravel on asphalt driveway will be removed up until this point. Because they will no longer use that because they're building a garage. They hope to build a garage over here. So this will go away. There'll be one sort of parallel pull-off spot remaining here. There's a brick walk going around to the kitchen entrance. Then otherwise the garage addition in this location, and it will maintain the circular driveway, but the driveway will have to be reconfigured slightly because it I think I have No, that doesn't show the, well, yeah, this dashed line here. And this dashed line down here is where the driveway is now. You see that cuts through a corner of the garage. So the garage is going here, and so we had to pull the driveway back, so there's a little bit of room in front of it. And we had to relocate the septic tank, which is right now too close to the where the garage will be going. And this leaching field, put an angle into it to avoid the garage by 10 feet here also. So the proposal is to build this garage. There was this entire area on previous plans was proposed to be planted with shrubs and then a perennial border, Maria Hickey, along perennial native plants along here. And much of that, if you've been out there, is not there yet anymore. This hatched line is the current edge of the lawn right here. And so you see there's about 5 feet of lawn where they're supposed to be planting along there and somewhat along here also. The garage is cut back to mainly partly to stay away from the zoning issue, which is a 50-foot zone from a certain contour line here. So cutting this corner back also cuts back a little bit of the coverage in the zone A. There's the land under salt pond, say Palt Sond, 75-foot land under a salt pond, zone A, going through here. And then there's also the coastal bank, zone A, which are roughly the same line through there. And then there's a 100-foot BVW zone and the land under salt pond, zone B, running through here. So that's the limit. There's one more. Coastal bank, zone B, runs up through down the middle of the driveway like that. So I have the mitigation calculations. I did it the same way we usually do it, so hope that's right. So we added up the what's existing and proposed in zone A, and because of the driveway removal, 525 square feet in zone A and a brick walk. There's a 70 square foot reduction in zone A. Coverage in zone B is an increase of 468 square feet in zone B. So the net increase of 398 square feet, which requires 796 square feet of mitigation. Emma or Alyssa was right. I labeled it something wrong up here. Wherever that mitigation note was. Anyway, it's been corrected to, where there, oh, it is, yeah, that's right, this one, it was 700 something, it changed to 800 square feet. This is 800 square feet of mitigation. Staff report wants, that does extend back into beyond the zone A into the zone B. And staff asked that this bit here that's in B be moved up to A. Is there room? There's room. I was talking with VJ this afternoon, and we will. I was hoping to get a sooner continuance, but I guess you're filling up. But we'll take the soonest continuance we can, which sounds like the 13th, to remap out the mitigation planting. I can tell you one thing about I have a table on the narrative as far as the setbacks from various resource areas, and this addition here compared with this corner of the existing building is in every resource, coastal bank, BVW, salt pond, and the well, the zoning 3-foot contour, more than 20 feet further back from each of those resource areas to the corner of this addition. There were a couple other staff comments. I had a question on the staff remarks about restoring some of the planting in this area. And I was wondering, does that mean, I sent an email with the question, there's some plants in here, two fruit trees and some other, these are ornamental shrubs generally that are being removed. And by restoring that shrubs in that area, you mean taking that area of shrubs and putting them somewhere else? And if they are ornamental and non-native shrubs, can they go outside of a zone B? Or can they go up into this? Well, I guess if you say they're in the mitigation area, that'd be one question. I can talk with staff about these if we're going to have a long continuance anyway. Just as far as that, the exactly what's meant by restoring. And there's a question because I guess this area here by Maria Hickey was put out as a sole, she would be the sole person to do the work, and ask who will replant this area, and is that something, do you need to approve the gardener or the landscaper that's going to do this work? You just want to be notified who will be doing it ahead of time? That's again a question. Like I said, we can go over this with staff. Don't have to take up all the time right now unless you or the commissioners want to get into it. The number of trees is something I had missed. We did have, because there are those two trees, these two trees here, an apple and another type of fruit tree here being removed. That was noted in the planting notes. The two trees will be replaced, but I didn't put them in. And on the mitigation notes, right above it, it says one tree, because we're roughly near 800 square feet. I mean, we're roughly near 1,000 square feet. I did show one native tree up here. Can we put these? We'll have to see if there's any specific place you want these, since I'm not sure how much they do for a zone B, but we could put them up into here. Some of these shrubs move up to here. And there was another question about please clarify if the gravel in zone B is being included in the mitigation calculation. I do have the gravel, which is called, and I assume the only gravel on here is the driveway here. Removing the gravel driveway, which we do show in the mitigation calculations as a reduction in area. So it is shown in the mitigation calculation. So I don't know if that came from Emma or Alyssa, but if that's not answering your question properly, then let me know what the question is. But that's the explanation of the project, and I will take this down and take questions and discussion.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Jen.
Tom, I think we can talk about with the staff, the replacement of those ornamentals. Usually the board does not allow you to, let's say, remove invasives to put your mitigation there, or remove, so, I mean, I looked at the mitigation in the, I looked at those trees, and maybe we can go on site and check them out. I know what you mean. But the board can decide. I know at times they've allowed like a large rhododendron to be removed without being replaced and things like that, or a yew or something like that. So that's a discussion the board can have. As far as can you go back about your comment or your question on the perennial border? So we're reestablishing the perennial border.
Yeah, I guess Maria,
Okay, so if
Maria
you're-
did that narrative and did the work.
Okay, so if your client wants someone else to do that, just have them, just let us know who'll be doing the work.
Yeah.
I mean, the reasoning we put that condition in is because we spend a lot of time with certain designers,
Right.
restoration experts, we have a certain comfort level with these companies. We know their work. So when we see it on a plan, we understand from past experience what we're anticipating when we go on the property for compliance.
Right, yeah,
If
I
the
understand
property
why.
owner switches and hires some off-Cape company or someone with a pickup truck, not to insult people with pickup trucks, I own one. That's when things kind of can go awry. So we just want to make sure that we know who's doing the work and that we're comfortable,
Mhm.
especially during certain, we're working right on a coastal bank there. What's the other one I wanted to address? What's the other one you wanted us to talk about, Tom?
Oh, well, about no, I guess I just have to go over, well, you said about.
Yeah,
the
we can go
replacement
over
trees and
that with
things.
you, and the board can decide if they want that, those ornamentals replaced somewhere. And then once we hear from the board, we can offer you more guidance before your next hearing. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah, and I guess the last one, I just wasn't sure about the question about the gravel and the mitigation calculation.
so that question's coming up because we are seeing that sometimes, and we've heard this argument from you, Tom, that the regulations don't say pervious surface that does not support mitigation in a zone B, so why do we have to mitigate for it? But if you don't have to mitigate for it, then you don't get the credit for it. It's the cake you eat it too argument.
Well, no, I know, and the only time gravel could be allowed in a zone B is if it's built properly to be actually pervious. And this, I mean, this is an old driveway that's, and like I said, I think it's even,
Yeah, we're gonna be
asphalt.
addressing that. We're gonna be addressing
Yeah.
that provision in the reg and kind of tightening that up
Mhm.
in
But
the
this-
coming months.
this isn't soft pervious gravel that we're
Nope,
talking
I
about
understand.
here.
We're gonna be, again, looking at that
Mhm.
in the upcoming months.
Right.
But those are, I think, all my questions anyway.
Okay,
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Just a follow-up comment on the contractor work. The original project was for invasive species removal and restoration. So Tom, I think you explained in the narrative, and Emma's the one who went out to look at the site, that there's not much work to be done. It's just more maintenance, cleaning it up, maybe a couple invasive vines here and there and some minor replanting. Is that correct?
yeah, I think, it probably shrunk a little along the edge of the lawn and things like
Mhm.
that.
Okay.
And yeah, I think you're right there. Clean up and things like that, and a few little bit of new planting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was it. Thank you.
All right. I want to dwell on the contractor vendor thing. I think one of the important things to point out about changing a vendor is simply the fact that, we require a consultation before the project begins, right? So, if we went over that with, vendor A and then you change to vendor B, that's, I mean, in theory, that's fine. It's just that now vendor B has to understand what the order of conditions is, because then if they do it, not to be negative, but incorrectly for whatever reason, it looks like, they did something wrong, and it's not necessarily that, it's just maybe they don't understand what the order of conditions was. And I think that's more the thing to stress with changing the vendor. It's not judging the vendor, it's just making sure they understand the order of conditions. Tom, you mentioned about moving those ornamentals over to the B zone where you're gonna move some of that mitigation. why wouldn't we allow the trees to be in the B zone?
Yeah.
You know,
No, you would, I was probably just kind of thinking out loud on that, but it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
of course they could be.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're already gonna be moving that, then to me, that's available space. That's my comment.
Mhm.
So, all right. More commissioner comments. Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
all right. Maury,
I just had a couple suggestions because your mitigation area is pretty limited to get all that out of the B zone into the A zone. And, you know, maybe a trade with a less perennials and more woody indigenous, you know, some clethra, things like that, might give you that space. I don't know if that's an option. Staff will talk to you about that. But there was an awful lot of bare ground out there where I think was supposed to have shrubbery. And I'm sure you'll take care of all that. And that's all. It was a beautiful piece of property. It was nice and cool when I went out there.
Mm,
That breeze off that pond. What a beautiful sight.
It is.
It's hard to believe there's that big a piece of land on Walker Street. You know, you get off the main drag and it's beautiful. And nice presentation. Thank you.
thank you. Melissa,
Thank you. Yeah, I'll agree. It is definitely a lovely spot. I had a question about all the bare spots between the sedum on the coastal bank too, so I'm hoping that will get filled in. And a question for staff is this a velocity zone? Yes, no, what kind of velocity
that?
zone?
Think so.
No,
Don't
not a
think so.
velocity zone, no.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about the kayak rack? Kayaks blowing
What we-
around?
What was that, Melissa?
You don't have to worry about the kayak rack being right there on the coastal bank?
We can look
It's
at
on-
the where the kayak rack is, Melissa.
It's tucked into shrubbery right on the coastal bank and on the border there with, well,
Yeah.
I guess it's the
Behind
western
where-
border.
Behind where the garage is going.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe your clients can relocate that kayak rack.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the A zone, so it looks forward of the addition. And then also, went down to the dock and there is an abandoned dinghy on the coast there, just west of the dock. And the north is a little crooked here. Basically where those, where it says small alders, there's an inverted dinghy stuck in there. I should probably get it pulled out. So I'm sure somebody's living underneath it, but it's been abandoned for a while. And that crabapple tree, labeled apple tree, the crabapple, it would be great if it could get salvaged somehow. It's really nice. But other than the abandoned overgrown dinghy and the kayak rack, and yeah, thanks for digging up the impervious gravel driveway. That was yeah, that's good job. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
That's it.
Steve,
Thank you. I have no questions. Mr. Chairman.
all right. Betsy, you're muted. Betsy, you're muted.
A shout out to Tom for following the normal way to do mitigation calculations
Oh, poor Raoul.
and adding the trees.
No.
Thanks, Tom. And I agree that was spectacular going out to that site. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Tom, do we have any information on that dock?
Certainly we ought to by now. We've been working on this site for a while, but I don't know. I'd have to look into it.
Okay, we'll look into it. Thanks.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not regarding this project, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so what are we looking at?
Well, right now, we already have 3.
October.
No, no, hang on
What?
one second, guys. Spencer Baird's going to the.
We're
third.
looking at a continuance for the purposes of adjusting the mitigation. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we already have 3 continuances on the on the 13th, but I don't think this one's gonna be terribly. I mean, I think we can work with Tom and get it all buttoned down by the time it comes back.
After talking with you, I'll get it perfect.
Thank you, Tom.
So at the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this hearing to September 13th.
Second, O'Brien.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till 9:13. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Right, aye.
Steve.
And,
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 13. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Night, Tom.
Good night.
Night, Tom.
Good night, Tom.
All right, next up, Clancy Construction, Inc. 145 Antlers Shore Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition, landing and deck to upgrade the existing cesspool to a Title V sewage disposal system. Wonder how that works. Reconstruct existing retaining walls and install dry wells. Ken.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tim Santos has been promoted up to present his project.
Mr. Santos, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, representing the applicant. With your permission, I will share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Before I start, can everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, again, the property is located at 145 Antler Shore Drive in East Falmouth. It's currently developed with an existing single-family home, shed, paved driveway, some concrete retaining walls along the road, and most of the yard is lawn with a few trees to the rear. The resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are a coastal bank on the eastern side of Antler Shore Drive and land subject to coastal stone flowage. This is a buffer zone only project. The applicant is proposing to construct a new deck and steps to the front of the house. We are proposing a small addition to the rear, which is more or less out of jurisdiction, but it's noted, as well as landing and steps to the side. The house is currently served by existing cesspools that we're proposing to abandon, install a new Title V septic system. All roof runoff will be diverted to dry wells as shown on the plan. We did provide a mitigation calculation exhibit under the calculations that I've always done in the notice of intent application, and the calculations are shown on the plan. There is a minor decrease in the A and a minor increase in the B, netting 0. So hopefully the board agrees with them. Did have the staff report, and the only question they asked was about that, and I sent them an email back saying that it's what should have been the last page in the application that was submitted, colored exhibit. So if the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them.
Thanks, Tim.
I guess,
Jen.
Tim, our issue was we just couldn't visualize on the plan where those increases and decreases were.
Yeah, if you go to the last page of the notice of intent application, there's a colored exhibit and it shows it.
Oh, okay, got it. Because sometimes when we're overlaying plans in the different colors, and now that everybody's using color,
Yeah,
it just gets kind of hard to look at.
Yeah, I understand that. So that's why I've been trying to include that little exhibit now in the application, so to make it a little easier for you.
Okay, cool. We probably just missed it on the back end over here, so.
No
Thank you.
worries.
Thank you. All right, I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Tim, I did miss that insert, but thank you for adding it. But my question just remains, so the decrease of 23 square feet in the A, are you just making the walls like a little skinnier?
The wall, yeah, the wall right now is, I can't remember what it is. It might be like 18 or 20 inches, and the new wall's skinnier. So that's
Okay.
that's the difference.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could conceptualize.
the-
There's only
and the-
two things in the A
yeah,
zone,
and
like the
the- and the-
driveway and the walls.
The steps for that new wall is like
Okay.
4 feet wide versus 5 feet wide going up the front there. So it's just slightly reduced.
Okay, that makes sense.
We were trying to just do a balancing act.
Yeah, no, understood. It was just, this little of a change. They basically look the same when you look at them, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. Melissa.
Thank you, none. Now that I understand where the reduction is in the A.
All right, Steve.
No questions. Thank you.
Betsy.
No, this one confused me. I was looking for a sign on houses on the side of the water. And I
No,
went
no.
past it and turned around and then looked.
Inland
Okay.
side.
Yeah, but no questions. Thank you.
All right. Geez, Tim, this one's kind of boring. I really don't have anything. Any
I
issues
know,
or-
I'm a little disappointed. I actually was just gonna request a continuance.
Just
Careful,
to come
yeah.
see us
Well,
again.
No.
I can always ask for more trees, okay?
Oh, no,
Put some
we're all
trees
good.
in the front
All good.
yard, you know?
We're all good.
All right, continuing with commissioner comments. Kevin,
No, no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Maury.
No questions.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, come on, we gotta come up with something.
I'm gonna make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement so Tim can go on to something more interesting.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to, I can't even say it, close this hearing.
No,
Any
it's
more
amazing.
questions or comments? All right, we're voting to close this hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thanks, Tim.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tim.
Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend. See you guys on the 23rd.
Yep.
Bye.
Night, Tim.
Good night.
All right. Next up, continued requests for a hearing under notice of intent. Cobalt Partners LLC, 23 Spencer Baird Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a deck, entrance station, and install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they've finally gotten through the select board process. They need to make some slight changes to the plan. They weren't able to do that by tonight, so they are asking for a continuance till August 30th.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to continue this hearing until August 30th.
Carlo Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until August 30th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until August 30th. Next up, John and Mildred Garrity, 32 Cove Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling, upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to an IA septic system, install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Verselli is here to present his project as well as Adrian from Barnese Waller office.
All right, and for the record, the quorum excludes Melissa. Mr. Boselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, for the record, Mike Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Adrian Emmerich from Bernice Waller Landscape Architects. This is a continued hearing. We presented the plans a few weeks ago. There was some staff comments and commissioner comments. We went back to the drawing board and refined our drawings. And I believe we addressed all of your issues and concerns. I'll just highlight what they were. With your permission, I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
First off, there was a concern about a proposed landscape wall and an existing triple oak tree in this location. The wall originally proposed to go straight like this, and we were proposing to remove this tree. We've subsequently put a jog in the wall so that that tree can be retained. Secondly, there is a triangular area here that's going to be this small amount of existing vegetation that's going to be removed because of that wall, and we had proposed this to be mitigation. And we all know that you can't mitigate in a place where you're restoring. So we modified the mitigation in planting and discounted this as mitigation planting, but call it restoration planting. And we adjusted our mitigation planting both on my site plan and on the plan by Bernice Waller, so that we still provide the required area of mitigation, which is 1,167. We're proposing slightly more than that, 1,215. The mitigation planting design has been modified, so there's significantly more shrubs in the design. There was some staff comments about 2 previously required tupelo trees. Those have been proposed to be added to the plan. That was from an original review by this board back in 2012, and those evidently were never planted. The staff also noticed 2 or 3 cedar trees that had been cut back rather aggressively, and those are proposed to be replaced, and they're shown on the Bernice Waller landscape plan as well. We have added the first floor elevation to the plan, which is 15. The flood zone is AE 13, so it's 2 feet above the base flood elevation, and your requirement is 1 foot minimum above the base flood elevation. In a follow-up staff report, there were a couple other minor comments. One was about the first floor elevation, which we've added. And then there was some questions about volume of fill. We had, at the original hearing, talked about 150 cubic yards plus or minus between the house and the road to provide cover and regrading of the front yard for the septic. There was a follow-up question about, well, what about the backyard or the wetland side? And we commented that the grades on this side are very close to or equal to the existing grades. This is designed to be a walkout. So there is a little bit of regrading around the sides to ease the slope around the sides. So perhaps on the sides and a little bit on these corners, there's an additional 10 cubic yards at most to just ease the grade on the side slopes. That summarizes my comments. I'm going to turn it over to Adrian just to discuss her plan changes, and then we're both here for questions.
Thanks, Mike.
I'd like to share my screen.
Sure.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. So as Mike said, we have about 1,215 square feet of mitigation planting, which is all shown in green. It is all shrubs. So if we're going around clockwise, we have viburnum and inkberry, inkberry along the property line, Carolina rose here and here, some shrubby cinquefoil, chokeberry, inkberry, clethra, more shrubby cinquefoil, and then inkberry behind the wall. And then, as Mike mentioned, we also have an area behind the wall where we're removing the existing planting and replacing it with inkberry. And then in addition, we're removing one tree to make way for the septic tank. We're replacing that with a tupelo, installing a tupelo and a magnolia as mitigation trees, and then installing those two tupelo that Mike mentioned, as well as one cedar to replace one of the existing cedars that was removed. So to respond to some of the staff comments, one of them was about these existing cedars. We did not have them located on a survey, so we were just placing them based on photographs. And Alyssa pointed out that our placement was not correct, so I've just moved those on this plan. We had initially placed them over here. We can get those surveyed if that's something that the commission wants. The other question that the staff had was about these two tupelos and their location. These, as Mike mentioned, were required by the RDA in 2013. We had placed them more or less in the same position that they're shown on the 2013 plan. And there is an existing rhododendron here that we had planned to remove, and we're going to put this tupelo in that location if the commission is okay with that. And then, as Mike mentioned as well, we pulled back this wall to save this existing tree. And we also reduced the wall height by about 1 foot to 2 feet, depending on where in the wall you are. And we did look into the possibility of just sloping around and not having a wall. We felt that that would create a very steep slope that would be shedding water into the adjacent property, which I understand is town conservation land. So we felt that it would be a better idea to just have a wall that's kind of creating a dam, keeping water on this property. Thank you.
All right. Jen.
Adriana, can you put your plan back up, please? Sorry. What's your last revision date on that plan?
Oh, this one is dated August 2nd, but I did revise it yesterday to move these trees.
Yeah, so if we could just put a different revision date so we don't get the plans confused, that would be great. I have no issue with you removing that rhododendron to put that tupelo. That's fine. Thank you for revising the plant palette. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. My last question is on that second tupelo. So I realize it's consistent with what was approved in 2013, but it looks like that will be going in the existing salt marsh buffer. Is there something that you need to remove vegetation wise to install that? Will that do well in that salty soil?
That's a great question. I don't know the exact answers to those questions. It's not something we've looked into very much since it was already shown on the RDA plan.
Mhm.
But we can look into that if that's a concern you have.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I agree with Jen. I think, putting the other two below where he proposed it makes sense. Maybe that last one we can figure out together at some point.
Okay.
I don't think we need a continuance for that. I think that's,
No.
if Adrian, if you could just provide that updated revision plan for us again, so we just don't get the plans confused. And we could probably look at citing that to below after the construction of the house.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian, you can stop sharing, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, commissioner comments. Mike, couple questions. Did you achieve variance from Board of Health and zoning?
Yes, prior to the original hearing before you folks, we had applied to Board of Health and presented the plan and received approval from the Board of Health for the required setback variances. Don't forget, we reduced the total number of bedrooms from 5 to 4, and we're also providing a denitrifying septic system. So the Board of Health was thrilled and pleased and happy to give us the variances we required. We also, subsequent to the last hearing, but before this one, Kevin Clower went to the Board of Appeals, and the Board of Appeals voted to approve the project.
Good. All right, thank you for that. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Maury?
I just had one question that maybe you can help me with, Mike or Adrian. The contour line number 2 on the plan closest to the salt marsh, on Mike's plan, it shows there's a lot of vegetation beyond to the landward side of elevation 2, and you're showing no vegetation. So are you removing some vegetation to put your mitigation in?
So we're not removing vegetation for the mitigation. The mitigation is extending to the existing lawn edge. We were proposing a mow strip at the existing lawn edge to prevent the mitigation from being overtaken by invasives, but we can try a different invasive management strategy if the commission prefers that.
Okay, it's just that there was, again, if you look at Mike's plan with the elevation, the contour line 2, there's quite a bit of vegetation in that north corner. Be the east corner.
I'm showing that here.
Yeah, and see and if you look at her plan, the planting plan, it's close. As
Well,
long as no vegetation is being removed, I just want to make sure. Because it's all backwards and things there. And the other thing, where does the path go to? Is it going to the salt marsh? And how are you going to go over the salt marsh?
So,
Yeah, I'll let you answer that one.
okay, so there is a dock here. My understanding is that this dock is owned by the clients, but their access to it extends into their neighbor's property. So this path is how they access this dock.
Okay.
And
You might
it's not through vegetation.
No,
Okay.
it's like a boardwalk.
Okay, yeah, I kind of saw that, but I was just curious because it was on a different lot if they were going to that dock.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a
And you
funny
might wanna-
situation.
And you might want to put the Carolina Rose not on the path, because that might not be a happy place for people. Other than that, and there's no problem with doing work in the road layout. Is it a private road?
It's a private road, yep.
Okay, yep, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Mike, for responding to the questions, and Adrian as well. I think, a couple of meetings and we got this all straightened out, I thought, but thank you.
Thank you.
Betsy?
No questions or comments. Thanks.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Carla Hawk second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Andrew. Adrian,
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your feedback and have a good evening.
Night,
night.
Mike. Night, Adrian.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good
Welcome,
night.
Melissa.
next up, request to amend an existing order of conditions. Dana Roden, Quistit Harbor Preservation Trust and Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries, 48 Quistit Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4430 to remove the damaged coir envelope, install a fiber roll array, and add a mixed sediment nourishment berm at the base of the array and extending east. Jen?
Hello. Hey, Trey. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Sustainable Coastal Solutions up to present this amended project. Trey, am I promoting Dana up as well?
If he's on, I'm not sure. I believe he's here, but if you'd like to comment, that would be fantastic.
Dana, would you like, if you want to be promoted up to a panelist, can you raise your hand? I'm just going to promote Dana up anyway. I know he's here.
Not a problem. In the meantime, just to keep this as short as possible, my name is Trey Ruthven. I'm with Sustainable Coastal Solutions, and I'm here presenting on behalf of Quistit Harbor Preservation Trust and Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries. You've already heard the underlying order of conditions, which was for protecting the knob, which was the revetment around the outside. This project came up for another amended order where the initial bank stabilization was increased from 45 feet to 95 feet. This winter, December 23rd and 24th,
Trey, do you have a plan you want to put up, or do you want me to share a plan?
Oh, I can share it.
Yeah, please. I think
thank you.
that'd just be helpful for the board. Thank you.
Yep. Share screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. So as I was saying, December 23rd, 24th, during winter storm Elliott, the existing coastal bank stabilization was damaged severely. And at that point, I was brought on to look at what happened to the existing system and what methods or possible solutions there were for either fixing this existing system or redesigning the system to make sure it could withstand the conditions at the site. To kind of quickly cover what went wrong with the first system. The first system used 4 envelopes. So I can actually give you a photo, which would make this a lot easier to see. Or actually, let me zoom in here. This will show what the existing cross sections are versus what our proposed cross sections are. So at the top here, you can see the 5 rectangular boxes. Those represent core envelopes. The core envelopes are filled with sand and wrapped around. The issue with these core envelopes is that they ran the entire 95 feet of the project length. So once the core envelope was breached, especially at the lower elevations when we had water levels without storm surge up to elevation 4 NAVD, and then with storm surge even higher, coupled with waves, they were getting repeatedly hammered by waves. The fabric was stressed, opened up, and then they deflated, allowing a lot of sediment to come out. Partially, that's what these core systems are designed to do, is to protect the coastal bank by giving up their sediments. However, with not compartmentalizing the 95 feet across the entire length, the entire structure basically deflated, sank down onto the upper beach, and that's where we've come in to rectify that problem. To come about with a solution that would be a better solution, we're switching over to a core roll system. So each of these core rolls are roughly 20 inches in diameter. It's going to be stacked 5 high. The core rolls are anchored back into the existing coastal bank with screw anchors that are tied back with galvanized cable. Then over the top of the core rolls, we'll have core matting and burlap over the top, and the top of that will be covered with sediment, sand. The top 2 rolls will be vegetated with beach grass, and then the area above that's been disturbed will be planted with a native seed mix. One component that has not been a part of this project before is just seaward of the core rolls. You can see the hatched area in front. What we're proposing is to add a mixed sediment nourishment. And so when I say a mixed sediment nourishment, the existing beach is a combination of sand, gravel, and cobble. The nice part about a mixed sediment beach, if you haven't had the opportunity to work with them in the past, is that they're very responsive to storm surge levels. And so what you'll see, especially on larger beaches, which this one isn't, it's a narrow and more low energy beach, is that you'll see that the beach berms actually will change in elevation during storms. And the nice thing about that is as it's repositioning the gravel, cobble, and sand, it's dissipating wave energy and actually providing a natural source of protection. The other thing we've noticed is that the existing beach, based on old plans, has slowly been lowering, which is not surprising with sea level rise, just general wave climate in the area, just slowly moving sediment from the beach further offshore. So by putting a nourishment in place, we would restore the sediment, the natural sediment capabilities that the coastal bank has been providing, that in the armored area that it's no longer able to prevent. In this area where we're protecting the coastal bank, it won't be able to protect. So we'll be restoring the natural sediment supply to the system, providing a wave energy dissipation during storm events. And the good thing about a nourishment going forward is it's very easy to adapt to sea level rise over time by just increasing the elevation of the berm. In this case, I don't think that's going to be a serious concern, as this is a small beach and we're not trying to protect any major shorelines on an open coastline. Overall, the nourishment footprint, which we proposed, is 2,400 square feet. That'll cover up coastal beach and the toe of the coastal bank, but not impede any of the functions. I believe that's it for our amended order, to keep this brief.
All right. You good, Trey?
I'm good.
All
Happy to
right,
take
you can
questions.
stop sharing, please.
Yes.
Ken?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've gone over the proposal to Trey. I'm able to understand it a little bit better, and I have no comments at this time.
Ms. Bergeron?
No comments. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Betsy?
This is always a challenge, but I have no comments either. Let's hope a huge storm doesn't come in. I mean, you have to do the best you can.
And that's part of this. I mean, anytime we're using soft solutions, and when we're talking soft solutions, that's nourishment, that's these core systems, is that they're meant to actually, the first system did its job. It was actually meant to dissipate the incoming storm, protect the existing coastal bank, and give off sediment to protect the system, and it did that. I just think it needs to be design refined so it would be more appropriate for the site it's at. And I think by incorporating additional bank or sediment that would be coming off the bank, we're actually kind of increasing the resiliency of this entire system to deal with future storms. So relative to not having a storm, I expect it's going to see many storms through its life, and the goal is to protect the existing coastal bank. And so Currently, that's what it's doing, and so far we've been successful in that avenue.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Okay, Kevin,
I'm hoping this works as we all are.
Yes, I just second that. I think we all hope it works. Thank you.
Maury,
No comments. Good luck.
Thank you.
Melissa,
Hi, I wish I had no questions or comments, but actually I'm intrigued by your soft solutions here.
Okay.
There's a first question, all those 9 huge bags that are down there on the coast.
Yes.
What are those from? Those are existing, but they're the base of the original solution then?
The 9
Is that what
huge,
they were?
so the 9 huge bags that are, I believe the ones you're talking about are on the coastal beach as opposed to the ones
Yeah.
on the coastal bank.
Yeah.
Those were permitted through the commission, I believe, in a second amended order. And they were, so the system before the December storm had already started suffering from erosion due to water levels creeping up to the base of the first bag. And as I said, with the design of the system kept falling, and gravity, just due to the way it was built, was actually already starting to collapse the system. And so those bags were put in place to protect the toe of the system that's currently in place. Those bags will stay in place. We're going to remove the core envelopes that are further up the bank. Those bags will be covered, though, with the cobble nourishment that we're proposing.
Okay, thanks. I was just there. I've never seen anything like that before, so it was really interesting being down there. And then I have a technical question, Jamie, if I may, for our staff, because this is still kind of new to me. Jen or Alyssa, the original order of conditions was in February 2019. So don't things have 3 years to get done? I mean, do we need? Is this a legitimate continuation, or does it have to start all over again? 'Cause it's been
I'd
over
have to-
3 years. Oh,
I'd have to look back, Melissa, to see if this got an extension, but we did have the 462-day tolling period as well that added into this.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So that would have extended it. Okay, that sort of makes sense, but I wasn't sure if it had already expired and this just becomes a new application.
No, and they had extended, so Folks Engineering, who was the original engineers who was in charge of building the revetment around the outside, they extended the conditions. So our order of conditions is still open at the current time.
Okay,
We
well,
have
that's
roughly,
good to know. Okay, and then on the bottom of page 2, you say that the temporary construction access to the work area remains in place and will be restored after completing the work. Out there, and then I mean, I love the knob. I'm out there all the time, but I rarely go to that side because of all the construction that's been going on. But we've started restoring the road, but then further on you say that you'll also continue to maintain this thing. So how do you restore the access road if you're going to have to keep having access to the area?
so if you've been out to site, you can see the center dirt pathway, and on
Yeah.
the sides, we've started actually planting the sides.
Yeah.
Planting on the sides right now is strictly plant vegetation as opposed to woody vegetation. So as that goes dormant this fall, if we are passing equipment over it, that material will still come up in the spring. And the goal is afterwards is to plant the woody vegetation. For maintenance going forward, looking at what we need to get down at site, we can actually deal with a smaller pathway. We don't need the full pathway to come out. So we've planned for kind of both avenues. So we've started restoring early as possible to get that vegetation in and growing, but holding back on the woody vegetation just so that wouldn't get damaged during hopefully this fall's construction period.
Okay, great, because I was noticing that the pathway right above the impacted area is really narrow, and so you don't need to make that any wider to get down to it or anything with what you're doing then.
So for this project, so if we've gone down the main pathway that takes you all the way up to the tip of the knob, and we're coming to our project, so you'll come down and you'll make a left. That area will we'll keep the existing path width. Top, there's currently vegetation that has been put in place because we went down across the top and then down the bank. That will happen again to get material down. But most of the material that we can get down, we can use chutes to actually put that on the beach and then reposition it. So that whole area will get pulled back as we pull those envelopes out and then put the core system in. So most of it will be disturbed again. And so it'll all be replanted and all put back in a similar fashion to what it is now, except we won't actually be deflating and sinking down onto the coastal beach.
Okay, well then that explains all that, because I had on the back here written, how are they gonna do that? Thanks so much. I guess I mean, I was gonna play devil's advocate and ask you why in the world would we even do this and just, let nature take its course, but I know why, so it's fine. Thank you very much, Trey. Good.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, Steve.
Thank you. And thanks for all you do for the knob. It is one of our jewels. So, and I think I've noticed that you've begun the restoration. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
So I don't have any questions. Technically, I wouldn't know how to start.
All right, Jen, is there
I will say
anything
not
in the,
Oh, I apologize.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
And
Steve, it is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thanks, Trey.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Trey.
just
Thank
all
you, Dana.
commissioners, if you have questions
you.
along the way or want to learn more about the project, Jen definitely knows how to contact me. And so I know everybody goes out there. And so if you see something and you're curious, let me know and we can meet on site and chat about it, or show up at a commission meeting if it's everyone wants to hear about it. So feel free to keep in contact.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Trey.
Thank you,
thank you,
everyone.
Troy.
Good night, gentlemen.
Night, everybody.
Next up,
Good night.
vote orders of conditions. And I'll start right off with Melissa. You're not on any of these, so obviously you can stick around, but
I
understand.
think
if
I'll
you
say
don't-
TTFN. I'll see
Okay,
folks. say-
one-
All right, but
Oh,
just a reminder that there's no meeting next week. And please look at that fall proposed schedule. And if you have any input, please send it to Jen so we can get that ironed out.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
Mr.
I
Chairman,
already did a
kind of
while ago.
wanted to get that kind of finalized today. So I know most of you probably agree with it. It's fairly simple. We're not taking a lot of time off this fall. As you can see, we're getting really busy. The only question I had is that January 3rd
Okay,
date.
so apparently we're going to discuss the schedule now.
Well, Melissa's
All right.
leaving and she wanted the
can't-
January date off.
I concur. We should take January 3rd off.
That's all I
Yeah.
needed to know. We're done with the schedule. Good night,
Good.
Melissa.
Good night, everyone. It was a pleasure
I
seeing you.
really
all.
wanted to have that meeting.
Oh, come on, it's my husband's birthday. We can't have that
All right,
meeting.
so Steve is holding his own private meeting on the
Yeah,
3rd.
right.
Anybody that wants
I
to
wanted
join.
it too, Steve.
Okay, Steve and Betsy. All right, you need two more and you can have a quorum.
Are we off
Lori
the
will join
subject
us.
enough
I'll
yet?
join them.
My
Oh,
birthday is
no.
December 30th. I'll still be celebrating.
Oh, never mind.
Kevin will join us too.
But Steve just
Absolutely.
reneged because it's his birthday. He'll still be,
No, he'll be
celebrating,
covered by
so.
the 3rd.
he said he wouldn't.
Guys, we still have to vote orders. Jamie wants to move this along. Am I scheduling the
Oh,
July?
no, I think we should just, let's keep throwing this around. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, do we want
No,
January 3rd or
I
not?
withdraw my facetious comment.
I mean.
Oh,
All
I
right,
guess maybe the question is, do the engineers want January 3rd?
Mr. Chairman, can we go to order of conditions?
yes, we
Yes.
can. Thank you very
I'll
much.
take whatever you
Mr.
got. Good night,
Patton.
everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Vote orders of conditions. First up, Lawrence F. and Lisa N. White, trustees, 194 Ecopesket Road Realty Trust, 194 Ecopesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass.
This is the small patio relocation.
And there wasn't much to this.
No, there wasn't much
wasn't.
to this.
It's a mitigation in one tree.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the only thing that Alyssa was concerned about or asked about is that the species be appropriate because they're not really planting
Shading.
it all on the lawn.
Yeah.
Some of it's under the tree canopy.
I believe it was mentioned during the meeting, they were thinking about clethra arrowwood, so
Okay.
that would probably be
Yeah,
fine.
that'll be fine.
Yeah,
That's all.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
No.
All right,
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Carlo
Patton
Hawk,
second.
ooh, we have a motion and multiple seconds to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Seeing none, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, John and Joan Ripple, Joan M. Ripple Revocable Trust, 44 Gosnold Road, Woods Hole, Mass.
The only thing I had, Jamie, was that they took 66 square feet in the B zone, so we have to make sure that that's a out of the 200 square foot bite of the apple, they've taken 66 square feet.
I
Yeah,
thought
so
it was
that's a
100.
finding.
I thought, yeah, it will be a finding, but I think Mike had said 115 square feet.
All
I think
right,
it's 115.
15, okay, I'm sorry, I have the wrong calculation, whatever. As long as that you have it, Jen, and it's in the finding.
Yeah, we'll double check. I know Mike said 115 at the meeting and then
Okay.
you brought up 68. So before we make the finding, we will double and triple
Yeah.
check
Yeah.
the square footage
I
and
might
make
have
sure the appropriate square footage is backed out of that 200.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
All right,
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as extensively discussed.
Second, O'Brien.
all right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Anything else? All right, we're
Thank you.
voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Andrea A. Brennan, trustee, Andrea A. Brennan, 2011 Revocable Trust, 28 Nemasket Road, Falmouth, Mass.
This is just to raise and rebuild the accessory structure. Remove some payments, add some trees and mitigation plantings. And Alyssa, quick question, did Tom submit the revised plan that showed the previous mitigation? I know he showed it at the hearing.
Let me double check on that. Hold on.
If not, I mean, you don't have to check. If we don't have it, we'll make sure that Tom submits it with the prior mitigation. And then all I have is for first floor elevation on a plan, Maury, that must have come from you.
Yeah, only because he had the top bridge elevation at 37 feet and
All right.
he'll probably have to deal with zoning.
Okay.
Jen, I had one comment.
Sure.
There were some paths created through the existing mitigation. They said for something about, maintaining the invasives, and we've seen that a couple times now on different projects, Jen and myself. So I don't know if these areas should be supplemented or maybe keep one main path and fill in the smaller ones. Not sure what's most appropriate.
It does make sense to have multiple small paths to maintain it, because otherwise I don't know how you do it. So
Can't get in.
if you make more paths, maybe they just have to add more.
How wide are they?
Somewhere,
Wide enough for a person plus a little extra room.
Yeah.
Um,
Is this the one where all the mitigation is being like cut?
yeah.
Yeah.
at least it's tall, but yes, it's being cut.
Uniform.
It could be 3 feet. It's probably 6 or 7, but yes.
But it is well maintained. I mean, there's not a lot of invasives in it. They have been keeping it out.
It's probably worth letting them have the access to it to keep the invasives out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anything else? All right,
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Second, O'Brien.
all right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's Eye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. And again, not to beat it to death, but we have no meeting next week. And did everyone agree about having the 3rd off or not?
I don't care.
I don't care.
Steve, we can't
Muted,
hear you.
Steve.
That's usually good. Mr. Chairman, I think we all agreed to not meet on the 3rd.
Thank you. All right, so that schedule is set. Jen, if you would just send out a revised,
I will.
please. All right. Last motion. Who wants it?
Make a motion to adjourn Hollow Hawks.
Second, O'Brien.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Carlo Hawk's Eye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have adjourned.